In this episode, they enter the park. There's only one ride, and you must be at least this swole to ride.
This is the intro song to the podcast King of the What Now. Join us as we go on a journey, going to talk about pirates, battle and adventure. We think we're pretty funny. We hope you will too. Luffy, he's gotta be the king of something. We weren't really listening. Sorry about that. Hopefully, he'll achieve his dreams. Yeah.
Hello, fellow Grand Line adventurers, and welcome to episode 20 of King of the What Now. We're here to discuss the anime One Piece. I'm Joel, back from the dead.
And I'm Curtis, co-host Curtis.
And not only are we on episode 20, which is an awesome, psychologically good number, although I prefer 25, and I'll throw a fit when we get there as well, but we have finally done it, fam. We started at the beginning, and we made it to the walk to Arlong Park. I am so excited. I'm doing fist pumps in the air. Curtis had to, unscrew me from the ceiling in a metaphorical sense because I had so much energy. We did it! I love the walk to Arlong Park, and I'm going to continue to fanboy about it throughout the episode. But before we can do that, Curtis has to summarize.
I don't know, it seems like you're doing a good job so far.
I started at the end. People have to know the stuff that came before that.
Okay, that's fair. I was gonna say, I could just leave. And you...
No.
Okay, here we go. When last we saw the Straw Hat crew, Nami had just killed Usopp. Bum, bum, bum. And then we found out in the first episode of these four that he didn't actually die. Anyway, so here's the summary.
Wait, really quick. I do want to know, we did watch 4 episodes, 34, 35, 36, and 37.
Yes.
Just wanted to point that out. Okay,
Yeah.
continue.
Okay, so the beginning of 34, this is of minor importance, so I stuck it in here. There's a marine ship that shows up, and the villagers are all like, yay, a marine ship came, and then it immediately was sunk. So that was kind of short-lived.
Not just sunk, but it was completely destroyed by the 3 officers of Arlong's crew. It wasn't all of the fishermen. It wasn't Arlong single-handedly, but just 3 of them were enough to do that.
Yeah. So, now to the important stuff. So, Nami finds the crew members who had just reunited, minus Usopp and Nami, and she tells them to leave. They don't. So, eventually, she leaves, and I don't remember where she goes, it doesn't matter. It matters, but it doesn't matter. And then Usopp shows up right after, right when they were talking about, oh, she probably didn't actually kill them. And Zoro and Sanji are about to have a fight, and they go to hit each other, and Usopp's head happens to be in the middle of it. And they're like, oh, look, you're alive! And he's like, oh. So, there's that.
Very fortunate that Zoro wasn't cutting with the sword and was using the butt of his sword, because yes. I don't know if he'd survive a sword slash.
Meanwhile, Nami goes and visits, she goes to Nojiko's.
Yes.
And she tears up the house.
Yeah.
Because she's upset. And Nojiko leaves her there, and she goes to fill in the crew on Nami's backstory. This leads to 2.5 episodes of flashback, which are very, very good, and I don't usually like flashback. Okay, so that leads us to episode 35. So, I guess this isn't immediately flashback. Luffy goes on a walk. That becomes important later.
Which, it's interesting because Nojiko shows up and she goes, hey, I bet you guys are curious about Nami's backstory. Would you like to hear it? And Luffy goes, nope! And he stands up and he just leaves. She goes, what the heck? And Zoro goes, I'll listen, but as soon as she starts, he settles in for a nap. Mm-hmm. And it highlights the eccentricities of the crew, but it also, I think, is kind of showing you the different fan reactions to, do you want more flashback, kids? And I think some people are like Luffy, where they're like, I'm going to skip this episode, show me the punching. But some people are like Usopp, who want to hear it.
And initially, I was like Luffy. I don't know if you remember, but that was one of our potential bad summary cold opens that we had.
Yes.
Was me going off with Luffy on a walk. I doubt that'll be the one that wins. I just want to say I regret that.
Yes.
That these were excellent episodes, and anybody who thinks otherwise is wrong.
Okay, if you threaten to leave and you actually start, I will bring the chains back out. This freedom that you have is only prohibitory? Is that how you say it? Anyways,
yeah.
I will chain you up and make you watch all the episodes, even the crappy ones.
Okay. That's fair. That's
not that
tough,
these ones were crappy. Nami is one of the... This arc is basically the climax of East Blue.
Mm. Okay, so now we get the actual flashback. So to when Nami and
Nojiko.
Nojiko. I don't know why. That's weird.
Call
Anyways.
her Nami. Nami and Nami.
That's not going to get confusing at all. Nami and Nojiko. Nojiko, not Nojiku. I keep wanting to say ku, that's why. Okay. Nami and Nojiko. Flashback. They're children. They're being raised by someone who's not their blood mother. None of these three people are blood related, but they're still a family. And the mother's name is Bellamere. And we find out that Nami's dream is to navigate all the seas and to make maps of the whole world.
Yep.
Or at the very least all the oceans.
Yes. And what is her financial status of this family?
Oh, they are poor.
Okay.
Yes, they are very poor.
The very first thing that we see in the flashback is Nami trying to steal a book, and I think he's the police chief of the village.
Yeah, he's like the leader of the village.
Yes. Genzo catches her and drags her like a cat by the back of her, not the back of her neck, but her shirt, but it kind of looks like you would hold a cat, and brings her back and all that good stuff. So she's known throughout the village as the troublemaker, and she only steals because she doesn't have the money to pay for stuff.
Yes. Then we get a flashback within the flashback. And this is a backstory for Bellamere, which is also excellent.
Yes.
So Bellamere has kind of got this punk feel going for her. It turns out she's an ex-Marine.
Yep.
So she was a punk and a screw-up when she was younger, and then she went and joined the Marines. And then after a fight, the Marines lost, and or at the very least, there were a bunch of casualties. And
Yes.
she's stuck behind, and she wakes up and finds these two girls walking through the battlefield, after the storm, or in the middle of a storm. One of which is Nojiko, who is carrying Nami, who is like an infant at
Because
this
I
point.
think that there's a 2-year difference between
Yeah.
Nojiko and Nami, and so Nojiko is probably like 4, and Nami is still like a little itty-bitty baby.
Yeah. So Bellamere takes them in and takes them back to her island, her village. And the village is like, what the heck? We haven't seen you in a while.
You just show up with 2 kids.
Yeah. So she asks, please, save them. And they're like, what about you? And she's like, no, save them, right? And then she decides, I'm going to take these kids in. And they try to talk her down, but she's like, no, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be a great mother. So she takes them in. So at the end of that episode, we get back to the mid-level flashback. And the Arlong pirates show up for the first time. They go around and they demand that everybody pays 100,000 berries per adult, 50,000 per child. And they initially don't find Bellamere's house because it's kind of off on the edge of town, and eventually they find it because she's cooking and they see the smoke.
How dare she cook a loving meal for her family?
I know.
If only she had known.
So they go and they demand money, but she's poor. They don't have much money. Luckily, neither Nami or Nojiko are home right then. And she has at least 100,000 berries, it becomes established. So she pays 100,000. And the kids are going to have to leave the island so that way everybody lives. But then Nojiko doesn't want to do that to them. So she says, actually, this payment is for my 2 children who are not here right now. You will have to kill me, but you will have to spare them because I'm paying for them. So then the kids come up, they have a tearful goodbye, and Arlong does what Arlong does and shoots her.
Truly heartbreaking.
Yes.
Without a sense of irony, it was a very effective scene.
Yeah, no, that was an excellent scene. I don't want to make any jokes about it. It was great. So, after that, there's in Bellamere's pocket is a map that Nami had drawn. It's really good, and no one would believe a child drew it, is the description that was given. Mm-hmm. And Arlong sees it, and he's like, actually, I'm going to take you, because you'd be a good a good map maker and eventually navigator, right?
And I did promise not to hurt you, but I can take you without hurting you.
Yes.
Because Arlong is a jerk.
Yeah, he's a man of loopholes. Mm-hmm. Or I guess a fish man of loopholes.
Thank you. Try not to be racist on this podcast. Fish people have rights too, Or maybe they don't. Maybe we'll explore the legality of fishmen in a cohort-based setting.
Okay. So it takes Nami. The village is about to go get her, and then she shows back up in the village. And turns out she has, quote-unquote, joined the pirate crew and leaves. We find out from a conversation that she has with Nojiko that she has made a deal with Arlong that if she can get 100 million berries, which you knew this already, that she would be able to buy the village.
Yes.
So that's when this gets established. And Nojiko knows.
But no one else does.
Nobody else does. until we find out in the next episode, I'm just going to say it here.
Yes.
That everybody else in the village knows because Nojiko tells them early on.
Yes.
Because she's young and the leader.
Well, and Genzo's a pretty smart guy, so he's like, Nami wouldn't act like this. There must be a reason, and goes to the only person that Nami would have talked to, and he's pretty clever.
But they don't tell her that because they don't want her to feel like everybody's depending on me. They wanted her to be able to leave if she wanted to without feeling bad about it.
100%.
So now we're back in present day. That's right. Then ending flashbacks. Present day. The Marines have shown up at the island. And they are searching for Nami's money.
Not just the Marines, the mouse jerk Marine that we've seen before, who is Colonel Mizumi or Nizuni. Anyways, we know that he's in league with Arlong. We already saw them having a nice cup of tea several episodes ago.
Yeah, he's been bribed.
Yes.
So he shows up and says, we're looking for your money. And eventually we find out Arlong tipped him off.
Yep.
And that Arlong is going to get a cut of it. And the Marine is going to get a cut of it. And then Nami obviously won't be able to pay because she doesn't have the money anymore. And so she's heartbroken. And she goes to confront Arlong. And Arlong's like, well, I didn't technically break the deal. You can still pay anytime you want to. You just have to start saving again. She goes back to the village to tell everybody, it's okay, it's fine, don't worry, I'm going to get the money. And the village is like, no.
We've hit our boiling point. This is not okay.
Yeah. So the villagers are going to confront Arlong. At this point, Nami is left in the village, and she is breaking down, and she still has the tattoo on her shoulder for the Arlong pirate crew, and she starts stabbing herself to try to, mutilate the tattoo, right?
Yep.
And eventually Luffy comes up and stops her, because she's stabbing herself in the arm. And they sit there for a while, and, Nami, and she's like, I told you to leave, why didn't you leave? And then they sit there, and then finally she says, help me. And then at that point, Luffy takes his hat, gives it to her, which she remembers is important. And he goes, of course I will. And he starts walking off, and the other 3 guys in the crew are sitting there waiting for him. And he goes, let's go take care of this. And so they walk over to Arlong Park, and the villagers are are outside at the gate. And at the gate, Johnny and Yozaku are waiting there, and they won't let him in because they know they're going to get killed. And they've already tried to fight the pirate crew, and they didn't succeed. But they say, wait, there are guys coming who are stronger than any of us, and they're going to take care of this. And then we see them walking up, and they tell them all to part, and they go up and they bash down the door.
Not they, Luffy.
Okay, yeah, Luffy bashes down the door, this big heavy gate
made of stone. Yes.
And that's where the episode ends.
The episode ends with him just standing there, the smoke clears, and he goes, hey, which one of these is Arlong? And I think he has a special message for a certain fishman.
Yes, and that is the end.
Okay. Couple of notes. That was a fantastic summary of those episodes. I just want to point that out. There are a couple of things that I do want to add just to fill it out. First off, they didn't just walk to Arlong Park, they walked with Overtaken playing, which is the thing that I was losing my mind about at the beginning of this episode of King of the What Now.
I think Joel wants to make a speech about this, but did I ruin it by saying
what?
that?
No, go ahead.
Before he does that, I want to say, when he told me that he wanted to play this song at his wedding, he's like, I gotta show you the scene. This was one of the first scenes of One Piece that he'd ever shown me, with the exception of a few episodes. This is one he's like, you need to watch this scene. And it was the walk to Arlong Park at the end there. It is totally worth watching. It's especially worth watching in context of the rest of the arc because it's a lot more impactful then.
Sure. I don't think if you really like One Piece and you have a friend who's into anime and willing to watch it, but they don't want to sit through the whole thing of One Piece, you probably can start at the beginning of Arlong Park and just explain, hey, Usopp, Sanji, Zoro, swordsman, chefs, marksman. You don't need to show everything up to that, but just this arc as a self-contained thing is pretty great.
Yes.
But the walk here is fantastic. It is amazing, and it starts a trend throughout the rest of the series. It doesn't happen often. I can count on one hand how many times they do it, but the Straw Hats walking as a group, as music plays, all marching to the final destination, the fight that they're going to do, it is the core of this show. Like, if I could distill the entire One Piece 900 episodes into a handful of scenes, it'd be all of those. You need some backstory to understand why they're all walking somewhere or whatever. But this is the first time we see the walk, and it's not going to be the last, and it gets better every time because, spoiler, there's more people walking with them in future scenes. And many people consider this to be where the actual episode, or the actual series of One Piece starts and gets really good. Some of those earlier episodes, oddly paced, or bad villains, or that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. We have started One Piece.
And Joel told me so.
Yes.
Once we finished the episode, he goes, "This is where One Piece begins."
Yes.
And I'm like, what have we been doing these last few months? I don't understand. I thought we were watching One Piece already.
Vital backstory. Well, and then I go on to say, I'm going to throw out some names, and if you want to Google them, you will have things spoiled for you, but this is where One Piece starts, the walk to Arlong Park. And then entering the Grand Line is where One Piece starts, for real this time. And then Alabasta is where One Piece starts, for real this time. And then Enies Lobby is where things get real good, for real this time. And then Marineford, and then Dressrosa. There's all these different stepping stones. And there are some arcs later that might not be as good as the ones right before it, but there are points in the One Piece story that are, like, must watch. And then there's other ones where you can be like, maybe read the wiki if you really aren't, like, a diehard fan. I'm not recommending that. I've seen most of the episodes.
Yeah, just read the wiki. Don't listen to our podcast. It's okay. We don't care. We'll just cry in the corner.
We get information wrong all the time. But you're right. We are a valuable source of One Piece information, and the only place where you can get hot takes such as these ones.
Hot takes on episodes of an anime that have been out for how long?
Watch our podcast. Listen to our podcast.
Watch it too.
Okay. Going back to the summary that I said I wanted to pad out in a couple places, some details. Okay. You said Luffy's walk was going to be important. Where was that important? You didn't explain what happened on Luffy's walk.
I guess you know what? I did kind of gloss over Luffy's walk. Mostly it's important because he gets tied in at the end, right? he is where Nami is eventually. I guess everything that happens on his walk is then important. I mean, okay.
What? Excuse.
Okay. So there are two parts. No, there are two parts that are important. Okay. The first one, I guess, is important because he walks past a bunch of
the officers from Fishman Island.
Oh, it is the three that take down the marine ship. I didn't.
Yep.
Okay.
It's Chu, Karubi, and Hachi. Boom! I know their names.
Good job, Joel.
I don't remember Karubi's name ever. It's just because we looked it up a little while ago. But I know the other two, Chu and Hachi.
Yes, Chu the short one, and Hachi the one that means 8.
Yes.
So yeah, he walks by them and doesn't like flinch or anything. He just walks between them down the road, and then they're like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And it's like, "Just going for a walk." And they're like, "You're not from around here." It's like, "No, I'm just passing through." And they're like, "Cool, you seem like a cool guy." And then they make a comment afterwards, which is the real important part, like, he's the only person who's ever walked by us and not been intimidated, right? Which I'm assuming will play into this, because I guess they're going to see him, they're like, "Hey, that's the guy from the road!"
Yes. Well, and the other thing that I love, too, is Luffy's kind of a simple-minded idiot. He's only told, I think, one lie, and it was kind of an obvious one at the time. But if he had said, "I'm here for my friend Nami," they would have immediately started attacking him, and I don't know how well Luffy could do in a 3-on-1 fight. He's better suited, I think, in a 1-on-1 fight against people of a certain caliber. But because he happens to answer with what he's literally doing that second, he gets away scot-free.
Oh, I didn't think about that. That's a good point.
Yep. And the second very important part of Luffy's walk.
The most important part. He sees the pinwheel.
He walks by Genzo, who has the pinwheel. He's walking with the Marines, and at first you think Luffy has this look on his face. You go, oh, he's afraid of the Marines, or he's gonna fight them. But then as they pass, he goes, that pinwheel was so cool. And the next time you see him, after all the flashbacks, he's still talking about, he's like, that pinwheel gave me a great idea.
And it was amazing. I hope that comes back. Oh,
foreshadowing.
My God. We
got it. We got the first instance of foreshadowing.
Can I tell them about my pinwheel theory? My hairbrain pinwheel
theory? Yes, go ahead. Which we're not sure if you mentioned in the last King of the What Now episode or just while we were watching it, but go on.
You're going to hear it again if I did. So, they've emphasized this pinwheel in, was Kachan? No. Genzo.
Genzo.
In Genzo's hat.
Is something else, dude.
Okay, sorry, wrong universe. Okay. In Genzo's hat, he has a pinwheel, and they've heavily emphasized it in the last few episodes. My theory, the pinwheel is sentient. Genzo is not a real human being, but a human-shaped propulsion device being used by the sentient pinwheel to get around, which is important because there's a part in one of the flashbacks where his hat comes off, which means the pinwheel has lost his mobility device.
Oh, so good, so good. Okay, and... Oh no, this is why you should never have multiple tabs open. Okay. What?
Oh, go ahead. I have something else I want to talk about, but you do your thing first.
I think we're about to talk about the same thing, because I think we both wrote it down in our notes. The next thing about the flashback that's not important for the summary component of it, but that did get mentioned and is a great potential bit of world building. Arlong shows up in Koyashi Village 8 years ago, and everyone goes, the Arlong pirates? So it's true, are they here because of the split in the Fishman pirates? So you had some theories.
Yes, okay. So here was my theory. When they are summarizing about the seven warlords of the sea, or whatever they're called.
Just call them the warlords. You never meet another character who is like the warlord of the land or something, so just warlords.
Yeah, so the seven warlords. They mention the fact that there's another fishman named Jinbei in that era who is one of those seven warlords, right? And they talk about it kind of making it sound as though Arlong is somehow related to him.
Sure.
It wasn't exactly clear. Like I think we mentioned this in the last podcast, but the English dub didn't quite match what they were saying in the subtitled, because we have the subtitle version running underneath, because of the way the DVDs work out. And I'm not exactly clear, but I'm running on the assumption that they initially were part of the same crew. So I think what happened is there was a split and a difference of opinions, and Arlong took a bunch of the pirates away from Jinbei's pirate fleet.
Okay.
Right, probably just the one ship from the looks of it, but I don't know. It would explain why we get information about Arlong terrorizing the Grand Line, but then why he left. Okay. Because he terrorized the Grand Line as part of Jinbei's crew, and he was probably like some, high up ranking officer in there, and then he left. So I think then he came back to the East Blue because he himself and his smaller crew are not tough enough, like in their smaller group, to survive on the Grand Line, but they can definitely take over the East Blue, which is why they came back and why he keeps talking about wanting to create the Arlong Empire. I think his plan is to build a power base in the East Blue and then maybe eventually expand from there. But it's basically, he came from, I think I described it this way. He was playing in the rest of the schoolyard with all the big kids, and then he had a disagreement and he, got bloodied up by the big kids or whatever. He's like, you know what? I'm going to go back over here and kick the kindergartners in the sandbox around for a bit.
Because I'm big enough for them.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I have a heart-to-heart moment with you for real right now?
Yeah.
I love you, man. Because every time I ask you, did anything like this seem like foreshadowing? What do you think is going to happen in the next episode? I try to basically lead the shot. I try to get you to think kind of in the world of One Piece. And you just nailed it out of the park. I'm not saying you were right. I'm not saying you were wrong. But the ability to figure out these couple of clues, that's amazing. And I want you to continue to try to work on that. You finally surpassed my expectations.
I'd say two things. One, I'm getting better at it.
Yes.
And two, I think the early stuff
doesn't help. Yeah, it doesn't give you enough information for you to...
Yeah, like it's probably obvious to you in hindsight, but I think one, I'm bad at finding foreshadowing and clues in that in general, especially compared to you. But I would say
because I've already seen what happens next.
I would say the average viewer will watch the early episodes and not have too many, miss a lot of things that are trying to world build, and maybe later on it'll become important. Oh, I think I remember them talking about that, right? But when you go back, it seems like foreshadowing. I feel like this right here was very clear, we are world building. This will be important later, right?
Yes.
And I like the fact that they give you enough information that you can kind of flesh out your own theory, but not so much that you're not interested to see what happens.
100%. Fantastic. And the one other thing from the summaries that you brought up, not necessarily super important to the summaries, but one thing that I do want to point out, it's a great character moment. So the reason we get a flashback within a flashback is because Nami basically says, "You're not my real mom." Bellamere gets very upset. She's implied to be hitting the Nami and God dang it, Nojiko on the head every time they say something that they shouldn't, like, "Oh, I'm a better thief than you are," bonk, you know. "I stole this book," bonk. But this is like, you see the actual anger in her eyes, and she slaps Nami very hard and is like, "Don't you dare say that." And so Nami goes and finds Genzo, who's basically her father figure, I'd argue, and Genzo says, "Well, you know, you're very important to her." And that's why we get the flashback of her adopting these kids. And you find out that it's very important to Bellamere that these kids know that she loves them. And so when Arlong is like, "Here's 100 million," or when Arlong gets the 100,000, getting my numbers mixed up, and she says, "No, it's for the kids," that's very impactful because Nami was having doubts about whether Bellamere loved her or not. And when she was told that you have to leave the island and pretend that Bellamere is not your mom, you could see the sheer, "Oh God." But then Bellamere says, "Nope, those are my kids. I'm proud of them. Come here, give Mom a hug. I love you both." Her arm is messed up from the damage Arlong has given her, and she still moves that arm to hug Nami and says, like, "Fulfill your dreams." And it is 100% amazing. Please, people who listen to the podcast or anyone who has a passing interest in One Piece, you don't have to watch the whole series. Just watch Arlong. It is amazing.
I've only seen like half of it now, but I would say the Arlong Park arc, which is fun to say first of all,
100%,
which is one of the reasons why it is my favorite arc that we have watched so far.
Yes,
it has the largest stakes so far. Well, anyways, and it feels like it. It's more impactful. I feel like the story is it's very strong and very emotional. And I also, because I want to talk about it, so I'm going to segue here. It fleshes out Nami's character so much better. Because I feel like the initial view that I had of Nami, and this is kind of the view I've had of her just from my One Piece knowledge so far, was that she is a typical shonen anime female protagonist, right? Or like one of the main characters. In that they use her occasionally, but for the most part she's just there kind of like as like a sexual object, like when they need it, and doesn't really do much. All of the backstory here fleshes out, like it just gives her character a lot more depth.
Sure.
And I was expecting that she would have.
Yes, let me help you out with that just a little bit, because so in the flashback, you see Bellamere, and Genzo brings Nami back, this little, I think she's 10 at the time, maybe it was a little earlier. But anyways, he's holding her, and he goes, "She stole this book, she's a bad child." And Bellamere walks up to him and slides her hand on his cheek and goes, "Oh, thank you for bringing back my daughter." And she leans in, she goes, "I'll pay you back with my body," which is weirdly explicit. I forgot that she said that exact line. But Genzo, gets a little embarrassed, and he drops Nami, and he backs away, and he's like, "Oh, geez." And so Nami learned to use the phrase, "I'll pay you back with my body," and you see another, like, a really quick 2-second scene of her trying to say that at the age of, 9 to Genzo. Yeah. And so in the present tense, when she kind of uses her body, the one scene that comes to mind is Johnny and Yosaku. She was like, "I'm going to take off my shirt. Could you turn around?" And that's how she tricked him. She kind of got that from her mom, who was the only role model that she had for how to act like a woman.
And I would like to emphasize the fact that, one, immediately after that scene with Bellamere, she's laughing, right? Because it was, she's laughing at how easily, she was able to...
Yeah, and how mischievous she is.
And, that she flustered Gonzo. Or Gonzo. Genzo. Genzo.
Yes.
I say Gonzo. Is there a Gonzo? It doesn't matter. I know there's a Gonzo in the Muppets, but I don't... I'm spiraling
way
here, Joel.
out of hand.
But, just... You have to watch it. Watch it and see what Bellamir's character is like, and then you'll kind of get what I'm saying. I feel like it's hard for me to describe in words what she is very punk. Yes. She's got this punk like aesthetic to her, just visually, and then also in the way she acts. So it'll make sense if you see her, and you'll appreciate it a little bit more. And then I feel like it helps you understand Nami a little bit more. It doesn't there's still
doesn't
like
excuse it, yes.
Yeah, there's still like the typical issues with any sort of shonen anime, but I feel like they go an extra step to give Nami some character development that, I haven't seen a ton of shonen anime. I've seen like bits and pieces. Mm-hmm. I feel like they don't always do that.
Yep.
At least, at the very least, like the older classic ones don't do it. And the fact that One Piece did it surprised me, and I was very happy. And it was just this whole arc, especially these last 4 episodes, were great.
Yes. I will also say too, I don't know how qualified I am to say this as a male, but I would say that God dang it, I'm getting names mixed up. Bellamir the mom is kind of how I would picture a strong female character, you know? She has the one thing where she uses her sexuality, but maybe she and Genzo were an item. We don't know. You know, maybe there was a little bit of interest there. But she's, she handles her own stuff. She's doing the best that she can. She's a pretty good mom. 100% she knocks it out of the park.
And we glossed over this, too, when Arlong initially comes up to the door. So she realizes there's a bunch of guys outside, right? A bunch of pirates. So, because she sees their silhouettes, and she's situationally aware. Mm-hmm. And so she tells him, door's unlocked, come in. And he comes in, and she kicks him out the door, ends up, like, standing on top of him with a rifle on his mouth, right?
Yep.
Like, very badass.
It was wonderful and great, and I wish that we had more of her in the series, and unfortunately a joke that will become more apparent the further we get into the series is that no one dies. Like, you'll notice that Geen was hit with a poison gas and he was fine, and Captain Kuro was attacking people at random, but they turned out to be fine, and just all this, that sort of thing. But no one's safe in flashback land, and she got shot in the heart, as far as we can tell. It was a completely shot, and so it's a shame. And maybe Nami will act a little bit more like her as she grows up, because she still has a little bit more emotional and mental maturing to do. But yes, I liked her character a lot. Mm-hmm. Let's circle back really quick to something. So when I was younger and I watched a lot of anime, it seemed like there was a particular trope that I want to talk about. In Dragon Ball Z, when they go to Planet Namek, there's the Ginyu Force. There's 5 elite soldiers, and they have to take them out, right, one at a time. In Digimon, there were 4 Dark Masters, I think they were called, and you had to take all 4 of them out, and they were each a little bit stronger than the one before them. Same with the Ginyu Force. They had a hierarchy. And I believe Monster Rancer had I don't remember what they're called, but basically final bosses, but each one of them was stronger than the one before. In Pokemon, you have all the gym leaders. So anytime a group shows up in an anime, a shonen anime, that's my specialty, and they say, oh yes, there are 10 kings, there are 13 thieves, there are 6 whatever, my immediate thought is, when's the main character gonna meet them? When are they gonna fight? Which one of them is the strongest of the numbered members? So something that I want to bring up that they mentioned last episode, we didn't talk about it as much as I would have liked, 7 Warlords of the Sea. So when you said Jinbei might come up a little bit later, yeah, I want to know when Luffy's going to fight him and when Luffy's going to beat him, because they're obviously all bad guys. That's how they're being set up.
And we only know 2 of them so far. We know Jinbei and we know Mihawk.
So we only know Jinbei by name. We don't know anything about...
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So my assumption is probably Mihawk is the weakest of the 7,
okay,
and Jinbei is the second weakest, just because
that's how it being revealed.
Because without, lacking any other information, my assumption is like order in which we have met them / order in which they've been revealed.
I do want to point out that he's the strongest swordsman in the world, so those other 6 would be scary as all heck.
Yeah,
at that level.
But you could also make the argument that. So correct me if I'm wrong. Is Luffy considered the strongest of the Straw Hat Pirates?
Yes.
So, like, Luffy is not a swordsman, right? And
Okay.
But Zoro is the strongest swordsman on the crew, but he's not necessarily the strongest crew member, right?
Maybe we'll get 7 crew members versus the 7 warlords of the sea. Curtis is nodding, and he's trying to, like, fit this into his head canon. He's like, no, I have preconceived notions of how the story of One Piece is going to play
that number
out.
does not equal the number that I have in my head for the number of crew members, finally.
Right, because we only have 5. There's no way they can get 2 more members in 700 episodes.
Definitely not Johnny and Yanni. So, for listeners, I was having a hard time remembering Yozoku's name, and I could remember Johnny pretty well because it's Johnny. And so Joel's just like, just call him Johnny and Yanni, because you can remember it starts with a Y. And then I remembered Yozoku after that.
It's just one of those things. It's like if you asked someone to remind you of something later. For me, I found that I remember it on my own just because asking them to remind me gives me a second thing to put in my head. Okay. We also didn't talk about this in the last episode of King of the What Now, but they keep calling Nami a witch for like 2 or 3 episodes at the beginning of this arc. Like there's a little boy who is like, that woman was a witch. Does she wear a hat? Does she have a familiar? Does she have a broomstick? Does she cast any kind of spells? What is this?
I have 2 theories.
Okay.
Either one, it's coming from some Japanese idiom.
Okay.
And that was the closest they could get. 2, they're using a stand-in for a curse word, which I'm not going to repeat here just because they don't use it in the show.
But it does rhyme.
Yes, it does rhyme with it. I'm trying to limit the curse words I use to the ones that I know they've used in the show. That way I know that the people, or at least in the English dub, so that way I know that the people who are listening to the podcast, at the very least, have heard it when they saw the show.
Okay, that's a great rule to keep in mind. We're trying to keep it family-friendly, but unfortunately, me especially, have a bit of potty mouth, so we will slip every once in a while. So if you ever hear Buggy say the word fart, that is our attempt to censor it, and it comes from the episode where he shouts, I'm so mad I can't even fart, because that's hilarious, and we need more Buggy in our lives.
Because we're adults.
Oh, speaking of Buggy, I didn't even write this down, but in the flashback with Nami, she's in the police chief's room or whatever, Genzo, and there's a wanted poster for Don Krieg, and he's just called Krieg, and there's a wanted poster for Buggy, and I love the fact that Oda knew that these people were active however many years ago when the flashback happened, and so you should include their bounties on there. The other thing, I need to circle back to the Nami Witch thing. I need to learn how to focus my thoughts, and somehow writing them down doesn't seem to help. They call Nami a witch, and right now it seems like it's just kind of a slur that is not a swear word, so it's appropriate. But it's interesting how much stuff happens early on that becomes relevant later. So, again, small spoilers, but not really big plot points. Zeph was Red Leg Zeph. When eventually Sanji becomes a famous pirate and people start actually knowing his name, his epithet, because every pirate has an epithet, is Black Leg Sanji. It's like the perfect mirror to the Red Leg Zeph. And they call Nami a cat when Genzo is carrying him, which was hilarious to me because her epithet is Cat Burglar, which makes perfect sense. Shouldn't surprise you. They call Nami a witch in these flashback episodes, and it's weird and out of place. But later in the series, things happen, and she better fits my traditional definition of the word witch, and I think it's really weird that some, 8-year-old kid was able to figure it out. Did he read the manuscript? Did he know? Was that kid actually Oda self-inserting himself into his own series?
Can you go back and put splice in just somebody going spoilers ahead or limited spoilers or something like that. Limited spoilers for approximately 45 seconds.
I know some people do that when they're doing reviews. If it was something like Sanji killed Zoro. Oh no, I just spoiled.
What?
Yeah. No, but when it's plot points like that, I think it's a big deal, but I think that most people watching this probably have figured out that the main characters will continue to be main characters, and it's a shonen, so they'll evolve and stuff like that. But I am trying to keep it on the down low, and I will try to find a better way to do that. I don't know if I'll be able to figure it out by the time this episode goes out. I'm just being honest.
Yeah, and I mean, you didn't reveal too much, I don't think, so you're okay. I'm okay with it at the very least. And really, in the end, this podcast is about us.
No, it's about the fans, and if they want more or less spoilers, they can reach out to us on Twitter, Gmail, and Tumblr.
Just go listen to the outro, where we have a full listing of all the places you can contact us. I have a Twitter account, too. I don't know if we've updated the outro yet.
Yeah, you can find him at Pirate Co-host.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, let's get back to some of the episode stuff that we saw. Nami lies to everyone and says that, well, she doesn't lie. She says that she's joined the pirates and they all are acting weird. And they're like, why? And she goes, I don't have to tell you. And she runs off. Why didn't she tell them? Do you have a theory?
I had a couple theories. One theory was that the more people who knew that she was stashing money there, the more likely it would be that something could happen to the money.
Okay.
Another theory that I had was if all of them knew, and then somehow... So, okay. This has a couple different points in it. So, all the village knows. So they all feel obligated to also try to put into the money pool, right? So now they're stretching themselves even thinner because they're not only paying tribute, but they're also putting it into the money pool, which is one issue. It wouldn't be a problem. They would be making it worth because it'd be worth it in the long run. Unless if Arlong found out, and I mean, I guess this is assuming that she has some preconceived knowledge that he might try to work the system, which she clearly didn't. And then he might slowly raise their tribute, making it harder and harder for them.
Oh, okay.
So... I could see a couple, more complications coming up. So I feel like keeping it on the down low helps. But she was also 10 at the time. I don't think she thought about any of that. Really, I think it was probably a pride thing. And this is my obligation to the village. Only I can do this. And my family was the one that caused this, and I'm going to save us.
Okay.
Sort of thing.
I have a couple of other things I'd like to add. I just wanted to hear what your perspectives were on it, and I like all of those thoughts. Another one that kind of came to mind when you're talking about the villagers pitching in, maybe Arlong would be able to say, I asked you to raise the money, and so this is the whole village, even though I don't know. I think that's weak logic. I think most of the reasoning why Nami wouldn't is kind of weak logic. But I have two that I think are a little bit more relevant to the overarching theme of One Piece, which I'm kind of a nerd. I like talking about that stuff. One, Bellamere was killed because she was honest about the money and stuff like that. So maybe Nami took her takeaway from that was, oh crap, honesty is not the best policy. I need to lie to these people and cheat and keep as much information to myself as possible. I really like that. And then this ties into it. Luffy shows up and he frees people from things. I guess he literally freed Zoro, but Usopp never wanted to leave the island until Luffy showed up. Now he decides he wants to go out to sea. Sanji never wanted to leave the restaurant, and Luffy shows up and helps him out of that. Nami basically went into a depression when Bellamere was killed. Not kind of the traditional I can't get out of bed depression, but she is not herself and she hasn't smiled, and Luffy is the one who's going to help her smile, but he only helps people by punching things, and since he hadn't shown up when she was 10 to punch Arlong yet, she just didn't have anyone she could trust, and so why would she tell anyone about this plan? Because she can't rely on them. They'll get themselves killed.
Yeah.
Also, I think I mentioned Genzo looked a bit, he had all these stitches all over his body. In the flashback, he didn't have those. But turns out he tried to save Bellamere when the Arlong pirate showed up, and Kurobe cut him up with a sword, which is interesting for reasons we'll get into in the next episode of King of the What Now, but his scars and his weird appearance have a backstory, and that's why I highlighted it in the last episode, because I knew it was going to come up. So, cool. Last thing. I know I've said before that I don't really think that Luffy has any romantic interest, and I don't think that there are romantic overtones to One Piece. If you have your own headcanon, that's fine. But, I will say this, Luffy Nami is a very common one that I've seen, and Luffy gave her his hat. That is the one piece of evidence that I see that could convince me, even though I don't think that Luffy would ever be interested in that sort of thing. So
I definitely think it was a non-romantic gesture, right?
Okay.
Like a non-romantic friendship gesture.
Sure.
Friendship gesture.
Like a brother could give their sister, their coat if the sister was cold sort of thing, or friends could do that and that sort of thing.
And also, because he has a habit of taking his hat off when he fights, right?
Okay.
Even though it's important to him. So I think showing, look how much I trust you. I'm giving you this very valuable thing for me to take care of while I go fight here real quick is, impactful.
Okay. That's true. And it's also the fact that, like I said, Luffy's kind of here to sort of save her from her problems in the same way he saved Sanji and Usopp. So don't think that it's just because she's a woman. But she's obviously in more emotional turmoil at this point than they were during their arcs. And so maybe it's like the only thing that he knows how to do. He's just like, I have this hat, it's my treasure. Do you want it? You're my friend.
I like that one. That's very Luffy.
It makes me feel better when I put it on, so here, you take it.
Could you imagine if someone put an internal monologue, like, dub in here for Luffy, and it's like him trying to figure out proper social interactions, and, she looks sad, dude. Should I give her my hat? That looks like it helped. Okay.
If we ever come up with an abridged series of One Piece, which I do not think that we ever will do, but if we ever do the internal monologue, it should be a roulette wheel, and in every situation, it doesn't matter if it's serious, funny, dramatic, anything, at least like 5 out of 6 or 8 out of 10 have to be meat. Just in all capital letters. One could be like a ham bone, and one could be like a rib, and one of them could be a chicken leg, but just meat.
Yes.
Okay, let me pull up the official questions that I ask every episode. What'd you think of the episode? We thought they were great. We covered that pretty well. What do you think will happen in the next episode?
I think Luffy's gonna kick some ass.
Who's gonna get punched in the mouth, and who's going to get...
I mean, okay, so I guess this is, like, I don't know if it's spoilers, whatever. I know we're approximately halfway through the arc, so obviously we have a lot of ground to cover.
Okay.
So this will get dragged out. I mean, not necessarily in a bad way. The arc's been good so far, so I have no indication that the fact that the battle is long is a bad thing, right?
Okay.
So it's hard for me to speculate exactly what's going to happen. I just know they're going to fight.
Okay.
We have had all of the backstory we need now to understand why this is happening, and now it's going to happen.
Okay. I can do better. I can do better about what do you think is going to happen in the next episode. You don't need a detailed analysis for this. There are 4 powerful fishmen. Zoro took out all of the fodder. There's Arlong, the leader, Sawnose shark. You got Hachi the octopus. You got Karubi, who has like these kind of dorsal fin. I don't know if that's the right term, but fins on his elbow, and he fought with a sword in the past. And you have Chew, who can shoot water out of his mouth. Which of them are going to fight which of the 4 Straw Hats?
Okay. Luffy and Arlong, obviously.
Okay.
I'm going to put Usopp with Chew.
Okay.
Because they both have ranged attacks.
Not only that, but Chew's the one who brought Usopp to the Arlong Park earlier, dragged him by the nose sort of thing.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm. And then, based on your description, I'm going to do something that's probably not as obvious. I'm going to put...
Karubi and Hachi are the 2 that are
Karubi with Sanji, because Hachi should go with Zoro. 1, because he has... 6 arms. So there's an obvious, 3 swords versus 6 swords thing going on right there. Also, you told me beforehand as we were watching it, he's a really good swordsman, watch. So...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you did tell me that.
I spoiled it. Gosh darn it. But
that's why I led with the logical one, because the logical one is, it's 3 swords versus 6 swords, right?
Yes.
And so I was trying to think of, okay, was it Karubi?
Yes, Karubi.
How Karubi and Sanji would match up. And I could see a pretty strong battle coming from, him using his elbow things versus Sanji's feet. Okay. I could see that going.
That's pretty good. Also, go ahead.
I was going to say, alternatively, I could also see them trying to mix and match and, put, not necessarily 1-for-1 matches.
Oh, okay.
So
sure.
I could also see, Sanji ending up with Chew or something. But I feel like that'd be a harder fight for Sanji to fight somebody who's ranged.
Okay. I agree. Also, the other thing, too, is that... Oh, maybe you'll mix and match. Sorry, I misunderstood what you were saying. I kind of was off in my own head. I thought you were going to try to say, maybe 2 of them will fight one of the fishmen, they'll team up or something. And I don't think that would make sense. That's not what you said, though. So
yeah. No, I think it's... we have the trend of basically one-on-one fights.
And we have the trend of them interfering... not interfering in each other's fights and trying to stop other people from interfering in their fights.
Yeah, and I think at this point, the potential for... I feel like Zoro is going to fight whichever one is the best swordsman out of all of them.
Sure.
Because he has to prove himself.
Because everyone has a swordsman on their crew for some reason.
Yeah. And then Luffy is going to take care of Arlong because he's the captain, and he is... Well, one, he's the captain. He should fight the captain, which I'm sure is probably not always the case, but probably plays into it somewhat. And also, he's the captain. One of his crew members is in need, and Arlong is the person who is causing the crew member pain. He is going to put a stop to it.
Yeah. Plus, Luffy's not smart enough to be like, if I take out all the support units, then the leader will be No, he's going to hit the biggest gun and take it out because that's the one that's doing the damage.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, slight spoilers, I guess. Ding, 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 ding! You got it exactly right. You had a little bit of knowledge on the Hachi thing, but when I said that Shu does the water shooting thing, like, that's kind of the obvious matchup. Also, Zoro and Hachi, even though you haven't seen Hachi's swords, they've had interactions with each other. Because Hachi was the one that took Zoro in the pot. So, like, Oda, very low-key gave us interactions between the different...
They had such a good interaction.
They had a really good one. Also...
I don't think he's going to kill him.
We don't have any proof that they have or have not killed anyone in the series so far.
That's true, but I think he will defeat him, and they're still going to have a good relationship afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be one of those
They'll
endings.
be Facebook friends afterwards.
Yeah.
The other thing, too, I don't think this comes up, but something that you could have used as prediction fodder, basically. Karubi is the one who didn't trust Nami, and so you have this, I don't trust women, and someone's just how dare you, she's my bae, even though Nami showed no interest, but he clearly is head over heels for her, because she happens to be lady.
Oh, I didn't think about that. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just trying to help you think outside the box, because sometimes the logic can get a little... there is always logic, I think, but it's not always. Okay, back to the episode questions. Who's MVP? Why do I even need to ask? It's Bellamere. I almost called her Nojiko.
Yeah. Good call.
The mom is just hands
I forgot
down.
we could pick someone from the flashbacks.
Yeah.
Even though that was 50% of the episodes we just watched.
Yeah.
Yes, no Bellamere.
Okay. Do you think that any of this episode was filler?
No.
Okay. You don't even need to justify because it all led into one beautiful story. And
even if it was filler, I wouldn't care.
Okay, yeah,
it was good.
It was fantastic, yes. And we've already covered all of the stuff that we thought was pretty good foreshadowing. We had a nice little discussion about that. Okay, so that about wraps it up. We are planning, everyone, to watch 4 more episodes for the next episode. We've been... 4 more episodes for the next episode. King of the What Now, episode 21, should cover 4 episodes. And that is going to be the plan. No matter what happens, that's what we're going to cover. So you don't have to listen after the outro in order to figure out what to listen to. In order to be able to follow along. All right, Curtis, you need to come up with something clever to say to end this segment.
Well, so I had a final thought earlier that I was like, this would be good to talk about, but it doesn't really fit anywhere. I'm going to save for the final thoughts. And then I didn't write it down. I know it had to do with Nami. It was some thing about Nami. If I can't remember it right now, that's okay. I'll see if I remember it before our next recording session.
Okay. Her witchy powers are because of her orange hair. That's how the boy knew.
Yeah,
because
probably.
Red-haired people and... Okay, so I guess we do not have any final thoughts, but that's it for now. See you episode 21, and oh my god, we made it to the walk!
And our next episode can drink! Woo!
Alright, everyone, have a great day. Outro goes here. So ends the next leg of the King of the What Now adventure. We're sad to see you go, but we'll be here next week. If you crave some social interaction with us in the meantime, you can find us on all sorts of different media. We have Gmail, Patreon, and Tumblr. All of those are King of the What Pod. King of the What Pod at gmail.com, patreon.com/King of the What Pod, kingofthewhatpod.tumblr.com. Our Twitter handlers are a little bit different. You can reach me at KOTWN_pod.
And you can contact me, Curtis, at Pirate Co-host. Also, please take a moment to rate and review our podcast on whatever platform you're using to listen. Not only will this help others find the podcast, but your constructive feedback will help us improve the show as we go.
Thanks so much for giving us a listen. Until next time, follow your dreams and protect your treasure.
Remember, it doesn't need to be literal treasure.